Behind India's impressive growth numbers, there lies a silent epidemic. And let me show you with this data. Data of NCRB report 2023, where 47,170 suicides were done by daily wage earners. They took their lives, which roughly translates to 27.5% of the all suicides in country. It means 1 in 4 suicides was of daily wage earners. It also means that around 130 daily wage earners die every day in 2023 as per this report. It reflects a very shocking and disturbing pattern, and it reflects a very silent crisis and silent epidemic. Silent because it is unseen, because it is unheard. Epidemic because it has spread to rural India and urban India. So here I give you one question, that beyond GDP growth lies a moral question. What does this GDP means when the founders of this economy, when those who build this economy are crumbling under its pressure? Hello friends, my name is Uttam Verma and you're watching StudyIQ English. So today we'll see the silent crisis going beyond this GDP numbers. So according to NCRB 2023 report, the suicides among daily wage earners have risen by 45% to around 47,117 in 2023, and they accounts for 27.5% of all suicides in India, and it is concentrated in informal sector. In India, the informal sector is about 90% of our workforce, which roughly translate to 450 million people. So what do you mean by informal work? They do not have job security, no job security, no pensions, no insurance, no proper working conditions, no holidays, long working hours, no job contracts. So it is informal work. So all the suicides are concentrated in this sector. And this crisis got exemplified since pandemic, because there is a perception that normalcy has returned. It has returned for some sectors, but informal sector, it has not returned as of now. So when the pandemic hit, all the industries were closed, wages were cut, and in urban area it is very difficult to survive. So they have to leave this urban area and move to their town. So reverse migration happened. Their jobs vanished. So as per economic survey, over 100 million migrant workers were displaced during these lockdowns. And today that same insecurity, same job insecurity, same livelihood insecurity, same irregular payments, same threat of job losses looms. And it all contributes to mental health crisis, because there is no mental health support policy at present. So the root cause of crisis is first is informalization in the economy. As you know, 90% of our workforce works in the informal sector. They do not have proper work hours. They do not have proper pay. There is irregular payment condition. And in that also, women suffers the most. We have job insecurity in the informal sector because they have absence of any kind of job contract, frequent layoffs, low wages, irregular income, as well as lack of social security like insurance, like pensions, like accidental insurance, etc. So the informal workers, especially in the construction industry, agriculture industry, gig platform and small industries, gig platform like Uber, Swiggy, Zomato, etc., they live in a constant cycle of insecurity. They constantly worry about their future, and this COVID pandemic exemplified their worry. Second cause is data deficit and policy blind spots, where government has discontinued some of its indexes, like unemployment survey was discontinued in 2017, as well as Labor Bureau's quarterly survey was discontinued in 2018. So the government do not have granular or micro level data. The government do not have micro level data to track this employment trend or track the employment distress in the informal sector. So ignorance is a bliss. So policy planning and early warning system for this economic distress, okay, these systems which are tracking economic distress are severely weakened as of now. It has exemplified the mental health crisis of the informal sector workers. Third, there are current gaps in the government strategy, where union budgets have consistently poured in crores, fine, for the economic revival of the economy. So they have poured for infrastructure. Investments in infrastructure has come, but there is lack of specific employment guarantees for informal workers. Then the National Suicide Prevention Strategy of 2022, it focuses on healthcare and youth, but it lacks one thing which is very vital as of now, which is occupational distress. Occupational distress it lacks. Then the labor code which came in 2020, the Social Security 2020 code, it extended coverage for the first time to gig and platform workers, but it lacks clear implementation rules. Next is the Unorganized Workers Social Security Act 2008. It provides a framework. It provides a framework for the unorganized workers, but it has no suicide prevention or mental health measures. So time is now to reform this act. And as of now, India spends very low on its social protection or social security mechanisms, which is very low, 0.6% of its GDP, compared to 6 to 8% of the GDP in the OECD countries. Next cause is when there is intersectional vulnerability, when this mental health crisis exemplifies when the people in the informal sector carries their identity and it intersects. When there is Dalit working in informal sector, tribal working in an informal sector, or women working in an informal sector, when their identities also overlaps, it leads to double vulnerability, and women faces double burden in this. They have unpaid domestic labor, rising domestic violence against them, as well as they are excluded from formal work. Also, they earn around half of their male counterpart for doing the same work. Then if I talk about rural distress in the informal sector, they're constantly affected by landlessness. Around 56% of the land households in the rural areas do not own any kind of asset or land. Then there is debt trap by informal lenders, as well as climate shocks due to floods or droughts in the fields. Then there is urban distress, which is stemming from volatile gig jobs and housing insecurity, because there is lack of affordable housing in the urban areas, so they have to live in slums, and slums has its own set of challenges. The next root cause is mental health neglect, where suicides are rooted in the economic anxiety, job loss, as well as hopelessness. And India at present spends very meager amount, only 1% of its health budget on this mental health, as per WHO study. And there is no health policy or no national policy which is specifically addressing occupational mental health for informal or daily wage workers. Now this is contributing to the crisis. So we have seen the crisis, and if we see it sector wise, so informal economy, I can sum up, it is carrying three burdens of economic uncertainty: no job security, no regular wages, no pensions, no insurance, social invisibility because nobody is talking about them, because there is no data, no survey reports. There is psychological exhaustion because they are hopeless. If I talk about sector wise, we have agriculture and rural sector, where there is high seasonal unemployment during non-cropping periods. So in monsoon period they have jobs, but around 6 to 8 months, they face high seasonal unemployment. And if I talk about other issue, which is landlessness, there is landlessness among marginal and Dalit farmers, and it is leading to dependency on informal work or informal credit. There is rising rural indebtedness due to limited access to institutional credit, especially in remote areas. Then there is climate related uncertainties due to adverse effects of climate change, like droughts, like floods, which is aggravating their livelihood insecurity. If I talk about urban informal sector, so the issue of wage theft is there, as well as issue of delayed payments is there. Why? Because there is absence of written contracts in the informal sector. Then there is housing insecurity, because there is lack of affordable housing in the urban areas and they have to live in slums. And there is precarious or poor working conditions, especially for street vendors, domestic workers, as well as construction laborers. And we have absence of or poor reach of social security mechanisms in the informal sector workers. So if I talk about gig economy, there is algorithmic exploitation. It is a very good keyword where these app based ratings determine their wages and incentives, and it is not transparent to them also, so it exploits them. There is lack of written contracts and lack of social security coverage. There is absence of any kind of grievance redressal system, as well as they lack collective bargaining rights, so they cannot raise the issue. If they raise the issue, they fear job losses. Then there is unpredictable earnings and occupational hazards during work. For example, delivery agents face high risk of accidents because they have to deliver within 8 minutes, 10 minutes. So it leads to high mental stress issues. In the construction and MSME sector, as you know, right, MSME sector is also hit by this US tariffs. Okay, there will be huge job losses, and it will be huge in informal sector. There is irregular and delayed wages, as well as frequent contract violations, poor workplace safety standards, which may lead to accidents, which may lead to loss of their life also, frequent injuries and fatalities, and there is no accidental insurance for them. Then there is inadequate skill training, leading to low productivity of them and job insecurity. So to counter this, various states has tried something. For example, Rajasthan brought Rajasthan Platform Based Gig Workers Registration and Welfare Act 2023. It was the first state to do so, and it gave some promising provisions. For example, a welfare board for gig workers, mandatory registration for workers as well as platforms, welfare funds, and complete redressal mechanisms apart from insurance or social security mechanisms. Telangana is also proposing urban Manrega. You know, right? Rural Manrega. Telangana is expanding to the urban area. So National Urban Employment Guarantee Scheme, which is Urban Manrega, which aims to tackle urban inequality, urban hopelessness, and will provide job security to urban informal workers. And it can be a game changer. Currently, central government has taken many steps, but it lacks on some parts. First is outreach. So if I talk about Pradhan Mantri Shram Yogi Mandhan Yojana, which came in 2019, and it provides voluntary pension scheme. It is a voluntary pension scheme for unorganized workers, but the issue is of poor awareness, because only 5 crore registrations are present compared to 45 crore eligible workers. Then central government has also launched PM Jeevan Jyoti Bima Yojana, which provided life insurance, but there is very poor reach among casual laborers. Then there is Atal Pension Yojana for unorganized workers, but it covers only 5 crore accounts, and it is covering on only urban area, catering to urban areas and not expanding to rural areas. Then eShram Portal 2021, very good scheme, national database for unorganized workers, but it lacks convergence with state schemes. So there is lack of coordination between center and state to handle the informal sector and its components. So what should government do? First is expanding Narega, rural Narega to 150 days from current 100 days, and link skilling to this rural industries. Secondly, seeing Telangana's proposal, we can introduce urban Manrega to cover unskilled laborers in metros. It will provide job security in urban areas. Then seeing Rajasthan's law, we can initiate model gig worker law, providing fair wages, grievance redressal mechanisms, digital work histories, as well as welfare funds. The government can also form National Commission on Informal Labor Welfare, providing specific statutory powers. We have to also integrate employment and mental health policies, which is currently lacking in every policy. There is no mention of occupational mental health. So we have to cater to that. We have to integrate employment and mental health policy under one ministry task force. We have also to create a national worker distress helpline like Kisan helpline for farmers. We need to make it urgent. We need to ensure real-time employment data through periodic labor force survey expansion. We need to incentivize MSMEs to offer social security mechanisms, and we can provide tax rebates for them. It will be a win-win situation for MSMEs also, as well as informal economy also, and it will go a long way to formalize this economy. We can also provide mandatory accident insurance, safety audit, easy credit access, digital labor inspection, as well as vocational training. And last of all, we need to expand the reach. Government has to work to expand the outreach of these schemes because it is currently lacking. So lastly, this is one UPSC question of 2015 which I would like you to solve. Which of the following brings out the consumer price index number for industrial workers? Reserve Bank, Department of Economic Affairs, Labor Bureau, or Department of Personnel and Training? So right to work is not about just wages. It is also about dignified life. It is also about self-worth. It is also about self-identity. And suicides in this work also, and suicides represent a policy failure. So in today's world of 21st century, we need to ensure that the development remains humane. The 21st century development model should integrate the provisions of human development into our GDP numbers. So that Article 21, the right to life with dignity, so that the Article 21, right to life with dignity, comes out truly, and every worker lives a dignified life, has a dignified job, and a dignified existence. Thank you.